we're going to look at adding integers using what's called the bucket or tile method. So we're going to add integers using bucket or tile method. So this is a pretty nice method. Eventually, you're going to move away from this method. However, many people really find it easier to learn how to use this method first. I don't care which way you use, as long as you use a way that is mathematically sound and that works for you. So if you want to use the bucket tile method, that's totally fine. If you don't want to use it, that's fine as well. However, you need to find a way that works for you. Let's take a look at this. So, our bucket tile method starts by first, we need to be able to identify three kinds of numbers. The first kind of number is a positive number. So let's say we have 5, and I'm going to go ahead and write positive 5. We don't have to have the little positive symbol, but that would be represented with 5 little pluses. That kind of makes sense. And then the second kind of number that we're going to have, you can probably guess, is going to be a negative number. And that is represented by negative signs. And so in this case, we have 3 negatives. And so we write down 3 little negative symbols. And the last one, you may guess, is the number 0. And we represent that actually with a plus and a minus. And it's really important you understand that we can add a 0, take away a 0, all we want, and it doesn't change the value. 7 plus 0 is the same thing as 7. 23 minus 0 is the same thing as 23. Negative 4.7 is the same thing as negative 4.7 plus 0. You get the idea. We can add or take away a 0 and not have it change anything at all. Well, adding integers is pretty straightforward with the bucket method. What we do is we start by drawing our little bucket. And I like to actually draw the bucket. It makes it quite helpful. And we start with 2 numbers we want to add. Let's say we want to add positive 4 and we want to add positive 2. Now, this is pretty simple that you may already know the answer, but I'm going to show you the example so you can see how to do this. Well, positive 4 is represented by 4 positive symbols, and we put those in the bucket, and positive 2 is represented by 2 positives. And we put those in the bucket, and we want to know how much is in our bucket. Well, we look at our bucket, and we see that there are 6 positives. So our answer is equal to positive 6. And that's how you add positive integers with a bucket. Now, you can probably imagine this is going to get a little bit more complicated, and that's no problem whatsoever. Let's look at the next easiest example, which is adding negative numbers. So let's say we have negative 2 plus negative 3. We have our bucket, and we put down 2 negatives and 3 negatives, and we add those together, and we get 5 negatives altogether. You'll notice that I make mistakes too, and that's okay. 5 negatives altogether in our bucket. And that should be pretty easy for you as well. The trick comes when we have both positive numbers and negative numbers in our bucket. But it's really actually not that bad at all. Let me show you how we do that. So let's say we have a negative 5, and we're going to add in there 3 positives. So we draw our bucket, and we put 5 negatives. 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives. And then we put in 3 positives. 1, 2, 3 positives. And then what we do is we look to see if there's any zeros, because we've got mixed numbers in there, and so we have to take out any zeros that there might be. So we look at this and we say, oh, I see a 0. Here is a 0 right there, a plus and a minus together. Any other zeros? I see another 0. There's another 0. Any more zeros? Yes. And you keep doing this so long as you have pluses and minuses in your bucket. Well, the 0, like I said earlier, we can just take away. So we're going to take this away, take this one away, take this one away. And what are we left with? We are left with 2 negatives. And so our answer becomes -2. So we know -5 plus -3 equals -2 because we took away the zeros. And that's all there is to the bucket method for adding integers, even with different signs. So you now should be able to add integers no problem. You might just have to draw a lot of buckets. And like I said, this is a method that most people use at the beginning, but later on they move away from it usually. So let's take a look at another example. How about if I had -2 plus 5? So that is a -2 plus 5. What kind of 5 is that? Oh, that's a positive 5 because there's a hidden plus there. And when it's not written, we know it's positive. So we're going to do 5 positives. And then we're going to circle our zeros. And notice I don't have to cross them out. I just circled them. And what are we left with? We're left with 3 positives. And I do like to put a little positive on that answer because that lets me know that I thought about what sign the answer would be. And that's all there is to adding integers using the bucket or tile method. You can see it's pretty easy.